right, we are live from Jordan-Hare Stadium, and first time in 3 weeks, about a month now. First time back in a while, Jason.
Yeah.
Joined by Nathan Kane as well, of course, from Auburn Undercover.
It is it's a cool morning for folks heading to the stadium. It's supposed to be 70 degrees today, wind blowing. It's a cool morning right now, and it's going to be a little bit different. I mean, for folks that are coming in, wear a little bit more clothes than you thought you might need
for
today.
Sure. Yeah, I wish I had heeded some of that advice this morning. Jason, so it's the first time, again, 3 weeks this team has been back home. They had the bye week, played a couple of top 10 road games. Overall, lost 3 straight games in the SEC, now 3-4 on the season. But you look at these last few games, starting with today, you look at how well Harsin has performed coming off bye weeks, you look at how well Auburn has performed coming off bye weeks. Of course, Arkansas is coming off a bye week of its own, but you look at these last 4 games until the Iron Bowl, and not saying it's impossible for them to win the Iron Bowl, but you look at these next 4 games, all of them winnable for Auburn, and I think there's a pretty good opportunity for them to do that today. They just have to play crisp on both sides of the ball.
Yeah, no, I mean, this is a very similar game to Ole Miss for me. I remember even before the Ole Miss game, I think I picked a 4-point game. I thought Auburn would score 31. They scored 34. This Arkansas defense is very similar to Ole Miss. They're not very good. Now, we'll see how much they're able to gather and regroup in a bye week. Heard they got a couple of guys back. It still doesn't make up for the numbers they've given up. But the same thing can be said of Auburn's defense. You know, how much can a bye week help when you've given up what they've given up? This may be the best offense they faced all season long, and they faced some good ones, but Arkansas is balanced on both sides. KJ Jefferson can run it. It comes down to one thing. You're right. You said the word crisp. That's it. Avoid turnovers today. If Auburn can avoid turnovers today, you're in the football game. You're going to have a chance to win. You let this crowd stay in the game. And I don't think it would be an upset if you avoid turnovers. I think these are 2 fairly even teams, just in different ways.
Yeah, there's one area on paper that is a massive advantage for Arkansas. That is the fact that the Razorbacks run the ball more than anybody other than the service academies. They actually do it pretty well, to top 25, top 30 in efficiency. And Auburn has the worst run defense in the SEC, giving up 750 some odd yards in their past couple games. Even go back, as you mentioned this week, Missouri, they didn't play that well in run defense. LSU was able to run the ball pretty well. So that is an area, for me, if Arkansas is able to do what it has done all season, that's a huge path for them to win this game. Auburn absolutely started with those linebackers have to play better. That defensive front has to get stops at the line of scrimmage. They have to play much better in the run game if they're going to have a chance in this one.
No question. You're defensively, you got to be what you thought you were coming into this season today. And do you have enough depth to withstand Arkansas? I mean, they're going to tempo. I mean, you look on the other side, and there's a tempo team. KJ Jefferson, big physical guy, running the football in the quarterback run game. Rocket Sanders, the big physical running back. Outside at wide receiver, they got some playmakers. Jaden Hazelwood coming in, a former 5-star. I mean, this is a strong offensive team for Arkansas. But you mentioned, going back to the other part of it, that means that this Auburn offense has to control the football. You can't give them short fields. You can't give them extra possessions. That's where it comes back to offense, defense working together. But you're right. For Auburn to have a shot, you can't turn it over, and that defense has to slow down that Arkansas run game.
You got to hone in as well on some of the offensive improvements they made against Ole Miss. Obviously they lost that game. You can't ignore the fact they ran for 301 yards. We saw Tank Bigsby look like he has all season, but now he had the opportunity to go through some bigger holes. Jarquez Hunter had a great game. Somebody you wrote about this week, Jeremiah Wright, along that offensive line. We'll see what that O-line looks like. I know Troxell and Alec Jackson are both getting healthier. That's a group in run blocking in particular. On the other side, if Auburn is going to have a chance in this game, if they're going to stay in it and play the kind of football they want to, they got to run the ball similarly. I really think it kind of comes down to the run game for both teams. If you're looking at one team having to run the ball better and the other one gets shut down relatively, then the team who ran the ball better is probably the one who's going to win that game. And Auburn has a chance to be that team today because they ran so well last time.
They do. Auburn's going to have opportunities. They're going to move the football today. This Arkansas defense is not very good. Auburn's going to have opportunities in the game. They're going to be able to move the football. Can they possess the ball, and can they score touchdowns? If you do those 2 things, you're going to have a shot, and that's what you're looking for in this game. And see if you can build some momentum, like I said, with some winnable games moving forward.
Yeah. I'll pivot over to Christian now, a recruiting reporter, and Jason, y'all talk about this as well. But first time in a month, of course, for them, or almost a month back on campus. Got some important visitors in town today, and we talked about it this week. This is an SEC game. I mean, I know it's Arkansas. It's at 11 a.m., but like you mentioned this week, Christian, you only get so many of these games at home. You only get so many conference games. Jason, I guess I'll get you started while I pivot over to Christian here. This is a big recruiting weekend for them. They got a couple guys that they're familiar with, and then a couple guys that maybe they think they have a chance with coming up here pretty soon.
Absolutely. You look and you got a couple official visits in this weekend, which is kind of where you always start in recruiting. But this is an opportunity to have, I think for the 4th time this year, to have James Smith Quay Russaw on campus, Christian. And you're talking about kind of what does it take to recruit. Obviously, coming into the season, everybody said you got to win games, Well, that's part of it, but you got to get guys on campus, and Auburn's been able to get guys on campus, and having Smith and Russaw back again is a big boost to a pretty solid weekend. 11 a.m. start is not a great, huge class, but it's got pretty solid players in it.
Yeah, it's not bad, and the biggest thing with guys like James Smith and Quay Russaw, they're pretty quiet. They go places, they don't say a whole lot, pretty quiet in their recruitment. You got to read the tea leaves a little bit. 4th time on campus for a game this year. They were visited in the summer, visited several times in the spring. Auburn has a chance with these kids. It'll come down to NIL. It'll come down to what the coaching situation looks like come December, but it's big to get these kids on campus. Same thing goes for Darren Reed, the LSU defensive line commit, who's expected to be back for his 4th game this year.
Yeah.
So that's pretty big as well. And then the official visitor-wise, you've got Tyler Scott and Colton Hood. Colton Hood, an Auburn legacy, committed to Michigan State. Auburn got in a little bit late there, but seems to be making a push now, and I talked to him this week, and he said it just felt right. I had to take an official visit to Auburn. His whole family basically went here. He had 4 relatives. And when it comes to Tyler Scott, that's one of the fastest rising prospects in the country. He went from being an Arkansas State commit to having offers from every single school pretty much across the country within the span of about a month and a half.
Yeah.
And when I first talked to him when he got offered by Auburn, before some of these bigger offers came out, like Alabama and Tennessee, he's like, I don't think I'll take an official visit to Auburn. I can just hop in the car and drive over there.
Yeah.
Now he's taking an official visit, so I think that's pretty important. Yeah. And another one I'll let you talk about is Jeremiah Cobb.
Yeah, Jeremiah Cobb's a guy that obviously we saw last week. Georgia's now offered. And you look at that one. That's Georgia and Alabama were probably the two that if you're Auburn, you had to be most concerned about. Georgia's now offered. We'll see how much they push here. Jeremiah Cobb, another guy you get back on campus, obviously is a big deal. And you start talking about even just a couple of guys from a school that we've been to as well, Langston Hughes. We get Aaron Nolan back on campus. If you get Josh Horton, watching them play in person, Josh Horton was the most impressive player on the field at a position of need. Auburn needs defensive linemen. I mean, they got some guys, but that's another area where they need some guys. Josh Horton could be a guy. We mentioned Smith Russaw. Interesting day, football-wise. Interesting day, recruiting-wise as well. So it should be a lot of fun.
Yeah, don't forget about Bay Fall, 5-star basketball official visitor leaving today as well.
Absolutely. So yeah, tons of things to check out. Auburn 247, Auburn Undercover, AUTigers.com. Lock in all day long.